Hello everyone, my name is Mr. Lee David Carter. I want to talk about another topic or subject, and I thought this was interesting too. It's regarding my family situation. I thought I needed to get this out and talk about this. Anybody out there that's trans or whatever that's going through this situation now in the family. So I want to talk about the family reaction and coming out. I'm the eldest of three siblings. I was born and bred in London, originally from there. So I grew up in London, and we lived in a house. My parents had their own house, and my parents went through a divorce when I was very young, and it had a big effect on me and my two younger siblings. And I was in my teens when it happened, so we had a lot to deal with. I went through my transition when I was 41, and when I first came out, I decided to tell my parents. My first reaction is, wow, it would cross my mind. I'd think to myself, I'd get this feeling inside of me, what are they going to think when I tell them this? I came from a normal family, well, kind of normal, younger siblings have got children, married with kids for years, both of them. So I thought, wow. Anyway, so after thinking like that, I thought, I'm going to tell my mother first. Even though she comes from a different generation, they think differently. They're kind of old school, the way they think, different generation. In any case, she'd heard of it the other way round, because it was a lot more common from, should I say, female, without getting confused. It's a lot more different, male to female. It was a lot more popular. It wasn't so rare. Years ago, you'd hear a lot more male to female. It's not as rare as female to male. So my mum heard it the other way around. She heard it the other way around, and she sort of had some idea, being an older woman, wise woman. So I planned on coming out, and I told her straight, basically. I says, Mum, I've got something to tell you. And she says, what about? And I says, well, I needed to go slowly on this so she could process it. I says, Mum, you've always thought I was a tomboy. She went, yeah, I've always felt he was a tomboy ever since he was a kid, I says, Mum, I'm trapped in the wrong body. She had to sit and think about it for a minute. And I explained to her that I felt like a boy trapped in a female body. That I was never really a tomboy. I was just a boy that was in a body that felt foreign to me. And I felt those feelings since I was as young as I could think, like 2-3 years old, when I started getting those feelings and picking up a ball. And when I got to 6 or 7 years old, 5 years old, playing with my brother and playing with cars and playing with Lego and just cars and all the boys, soldiers. And remember playing in the house in London and playing with guns and fighting my brother like I was Action Man, doing all that kind of stuff, but never really playing with my sister and playing with the dolls. I wouldn't do anything like that. It just wasn't in my mind, in my vocabulary, that gender, that feeling I had inside. So, but my mum thought I was a tomboy, so that's what they thought, my parents. In any case, I opened up to her. I started the process, started on tea. She was really supportive, and she was not, even though she wasn't there at the hospital or any kind of support in that way, being at the hospital, she was still quite supportive. And she said, we started attending support groups, and people her age, may find it difficult, but no, she was actually quite open to it, and she was quite supportive about it. And she advised me, and she said to me, you know what, I love you, you're my child, and no matter what, I'm still here for you, and you're my child, and do whatever makes you happy. She still called me Lee, it took a little while for her to get used to it, but rather than Lisa, but she completely understood that I was in the wrong body, and she just had empathy, and she felt completely blessed. What to have me as a child. Um, I felt blessed and very lucky that I got that response from my mother. Because there are many families in society that are probably not so responsive and so positive in that way. I mentioned this on the ITV this morning show. Um, they just don't get that kind of response. And anyway, she knew something was wrong. She'd known for years, but she never given. I never had that support or guidance. Family were dysfunctional. Parents got divorced. Realizing now over a period of time, but they did the best they could, and that was their best, whatever they did. And anyway, saying that, she always thought it was a bit of a tomboy. I told her I was never a lesbian. She knew I liked girls. I sat down and spent an hour with her talking about everything, that I was suffering with gender dysphoria, and explained to her, it's just basically that my brain, being born here, did not match the organs that I was born with. I felt like the opposite sex, which is dysphoria, gender dysphoria. So she understood that there was a gender identity crisis that had gone through in my life, and I didn't open up until I was 40, 41. So I spent a lifetime going through a gender identity crisis and not opening up and telling her this. So I did then. Okay, so I'm middle-aged now, and I haven't told her. I'd gone through some shit throughout my life. Sorry to say, I was drinking. Not coming out, issues with relationships. I was in a mix-up with people. Parents divorced at a young age. The family's dysfunctional. We'll come to that a bit later on in the second book publication that's coming out this month, December 2021. And I'm not sugarcoating anything. I'm going to be straight and honest, and I'm going to be assertive. I'm telling the truth. The first book that come out, when you look at living, an inner child of Lisa, all the patterns in my life, how far. I mean, my girlfriend, she's completely amazed. She just said, you are absolutely an amazing person, Lee, with what you've gone through in your life and how far you've come and who you are. She just saw me as this bright shining light, to really be here and be an inspiration for people and to help many with all the experiences I've gone through. We'll talk about that one later on, and it'll be another podcast, but sticking back with the story. So I was in a mix-up, so at a young age, dysfunctionality going on. So for years I suffered the gender identity crisis. Some of the family were religious. It's a tough one, this one. So I did not worry about that coming out. I wasn't concerned about that at all with the belief systems here. I numbed myself as well for a long time. When you look at The Inner Child of Lisa, the first book that was released, the second book, it sort of continues from the first book, being sort of like in a dysfunctional place, a dark place, should I say. It was not only about the gender story here, so there's more to the story as a sequel to this. And then, of course, there's my father. I had to open up and tell him. And although throughout most of my life, he'd been an invisible presence, to some extent he was. My mother left the home when we were young, when I went through a divorce, so she became an invisible presence. And me and my siblings, we've just felt abandoned, and we've been feeling like that throughout our lives, abandoned. And the truth has to come out. I can't hide the truth. I work with the divine. I work with love and light and the truth. Truth, love and light. The truth needed to come out. There's no more sugarcoating anymore. So I've gone through a lot. I've been, should I say, bashed about spiritually in so many ways. And when the second book comes out, it's going to be aha moment. You know, after speaking to someone from the BBC radio show that knows me to make another appearance, they asked about the second book release. What's it about, Lee? And when I opened up and told him, I went, "Oh, Lee, I'm so sorry." You know, but I've learned to go through a healing process right now with everything, using tools and techniques and meditation and therapy to, over the last 3 years, it's all come to the surface, what's been suppressed. And may I just point out, I work in the care sector, I work around mental health. So I've even opened up to my manager presently with my family situation, with what I'm going through. She knows about my gender, but what I'm going through now, with my mother being ill, and I know that she's what you call the end of life stage. So I work in the care sector, I see this all the time. I see so many things. I see people that have been abused, and they're suffering now today because of abuse, and they're using substances to numb the pain. So I understand it all. It's funny, really. It's like I'm on the outside looking in now, helping people with the life I've lived, and now I'm on the outside looking in, helping others. Like I said, I'm here to help people. All my experiences and what I'm going through, the things that I've seen. So, and I'm not just talking about being an advocate for the LGBTQ, because that, you know, they think it's mental health when you've got gender dysphoria. I've already explained on TV that I felt it was genetic. And I've explained that in other podcasts, scientifically. I came from a generation one wasn't even spoken about, heard of. So how could you say that it was behavioural or it was psychological? I grew up in an environment where wasn't around people that were trans. Growing up in London, born in 1968, growing up in the 70s, 80s, I wasn't around people in that generation that were like that. They thought you was queer if you acted like a boy and you was female or whatever. They just looked at you as queer, you know? So, you know, anyway. So, saying that, I opened up to my father, and you know what? I was quite surprised, really, with his response. Coming out and telling him. And because even when I was younger, I'd like go and help him, like doing a bit of woodwork or carpentry. I never went to the shops with my mum and go shopping with my mum. My sister did all that, like females do. I was always with my dad, you know. I'd go in his wardrobe and put his clothes on when I was 7 years old. His suits and his trousers and shoes. So I knew there was an issue there, you know what I mean? I did it on the quiet when no one was in the house in London. I used to go in there and do that. Start dressing up in a suit and a shirt and a tie, putting the jackets on and shoes, you know. So there you go. But anyway, I opened up to him. I got quite a good response, actually. I was surprised because of their generation. We're a different generation, you know, and my dad was 12 years older than my mother, so there's a bit of an age gap there. So, you know, he'd been in the army, he could speak German, he was high rank, lived out in Germany, working in Munich, living in Munich, went to Italy. He was an army, military, you know, family, uncles and that. So anything like that would be like, oh no, you know. He wanted me to dress as a girl, wear a dress, but I wouldn't do that. We had conflict over that once. So yeah, it was pretty cool. And he came out and he said to me, "How courageous." That was his reaction. And he just told me, "Well, you know what, you have my full support." I thought, wow, okay. Although the sister, I say, she was kind of like less sympathetic, but she didn't really say anything. She kept quiet. My brother, on the other hand, when I told my brother, well, I mean, the sister called me by my name, Lee. It was hard for them trying to get used to who I am, you know, going from Lisa to Lee. It's like they've lost a sister and they've gained a brother, an older brother, rather than an older sister. So yeah, they're quite sympathetic. So I kind of got the support that I really needed in a way. Compared to most families, I felt very blessed about that, and I've truly felt blessed and thankful about that, you know. because, you know, it is your family at the end of the day. And you want to try and be supported and loved by your family because they're your family, you know. That's how I saw it. So I remember being out there and getting all the support I needed from support groups eventually, coming out to family, coming out to friends. You know, it can be a scary thing to do for many of us, and, you know, to see what kind of reaction we're going to get. And this was my experience, should I say, without any kind of judgments on this subject. So I just wanted to say thanks for watching this video right now. Just being down to earth and as straightforward as possible, so you can, you know, whatever it is you're going through now or about to go through with family or anything, you know, it gives you an understanding as well. Because there'll be more podcasts going out, and I'm mentioning, like, being on the ITV show on This Morning and on Jeremy Carr. I just came out and told the public straight, told them how it is, and, you know, coming out to family. And I remember, I remember telling my brother. We'll come to that bit in a minute. Anyway, I guess I felt blessed in a way, and like I said, with most families in society don't really get that support and that kind of guidance with something like that. And yeah, they were empathetic. I would say that, since I heard one kid in our street in London that we grew up with. He was as a boy, grew up with us, played in the street together in London, lived 2 doors away from us. And then I go and find out some years later, this particular person is now a female model. Really gorgeous looking female model. Does it for a living. And I was like, wow. I remember telling my mum about it. Mum, do you remember such and such that lived 2 doors away from us? Well, you know what? They've gone through what I've been through, and they're now like a female model. You know, boom, mate, you know, doing really well. And Mum went, yeah, you know, I remember, you know. So I thought, wow, do you know what? The world has really changed. And even, you know, my parents coming from a different generation completely, you know, they grew up where, you know, it would be hard for them to sort of understand it or accept it, but the world has changed. And it doesn't matter, even if you come from a different generation, people can also be transphobic because they are. It just depends on the individual. So try not to worry too much about what people think, and be true to yourself and be who you are. Even if your family don't agree with it and they don't like it, because this particular person that I'm talking about, that's now a female model that's doing really well, their family has disowned them, doesn't want anything to do with her. The person that she is today. You know, so try not to be discouraged out there if you don't get the reaction that you're going to get, you know. Just be who you are and be happy and be proud of who you are, because it's your journey, it's your life, it's your happiness at the end of the day. And be true to who you are. Be who you are. Remember who you are, which is what I've been saying, you know. Anyway, so coming across that, I ended up telling my younger brother, the youngest, and his reaction was a lot more different to my sister. He's sort of a lot more warm. He's a lot more compassionate and loving. He turned around and said to me, well, you know, you like, he'd come out with something like, are you functional? And I said, yeah, you know, I'm functional. And he just laughed and he went, okay, that's good, you know. He was pretty cool about it. He's all right, because I've always sort of had that bond with him, even as a child, where I was always sort of playing, and I was closer to him, should I say, than my younger sister. I've always felt that growing up as a family. Although we had our moments and squabbles, I've always found that I've got a stronger bond with him than I have with her. He's a lot more, he's got more of a heart. He's more empathetic towards life and people. Whereas my sister comes across as not so empathetic. When it comes to people and life, I find her a little bit cold as a person. And there are people out there that are like that, but that's okay. She is what she is. That's fine, you know. I mean, she wasn't disrespectful or rude to me, as such. Although she has called me by my previous name some years later, and I told her not to do that. you know, to show some kind of respect, because it's degrading with everything I've gone through, and you know, I'd appreciate if you'd show some respect and call me by my name. So she did. And I remember having a conversation with her, with my girlfriend on the phone to her while I was there, and said, you know, can you show some respect and talk to him by his name? So she did. So that's all I'm asking for, show some respect. Anyway, I've had good conversations with my brother about a lot of things, family and that, so we've had a good chat. We're on a different kind of level, shall I say, with everything. And I just don't do dysfunctionality. It's not my world. I'm in a completely different place. As much as I love my family, I've sent love and forgiveness. They are who they are, and I just thankful and grateful for what they have given to me, and I feel blessed for that. And forgive them for all the other stuff that they've done, anything that's done, and yeah, and just move on and be who I am, where I am today. That's it. So yeah, I've told him, and then of course I told my nephews and nieces, and then my cousins. I come from a very big family. My brother's got 6 children, sister's got 4. They've been married for years. So I've come out to the rest of the family. Nephews and nieces are really cool. They called me Uncle Lee. I mentioned this on the ITV This Morning show. Yeah, and just I remember getting my first birthday card off my mum, and she went, "Happy birthday to my son, Lee." And I thought that was really cool, you know. I thought that was really nice coming from her to do something like that. So all yous out there that are trans and you're coming out now and you're going through these experiences right now with your family reaction. So I just hope that it's a clear message for you out there, even for those that may not have that kind of positive response or a negative response from family members. You know, it's important just to let them get their head around it, let them be who they are, their opinions or whatever. Just be who you are at the end of the day, your journey. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say now. I thought that's pretty cool. Birthday cards, Christmas cards, getting called Uncle E, realising that they lost a sister and gained a brother, or they lost an auntie and gained an uncle. It is what it is. So yeah, so I'm going to sign off. Look out for some more podcasts. At the end of the day, I was never really disowned. And as scary as it might seem to many of you because of any judgments. So yeah, thanks for watching this video. Keep an eye out for more podcasts coming out. This is my family reaction coming at you, all you YouTubers, all you out there. Stay tuned and get ready for some more casts. Speak to you again soon. Bye for now. Namaste and love and light.